20,000 oscillations of fury. Well, OPM, or oscillations per minute. We've got Milwaukee's multi-tool in the house. Specifically, it's their brushless model, the M18 FUEL. They have an M18 FUEL model and an M12 FUEL model, but this is the M18 FUEL model, which is the first brushless model of an oscillating multi-tool that they've come out with. They did have an M18 oscillating multi-tool, but it was a brushed model, and quite a few differences here that we'll go over in just one moment. By the way, have you ever done a search for multi-tool and it comes up with one of these or one of these? Well, we're not talking about either one of these right now, just the oscillating multi-tool. This is the Milwaukee model number 2836, and it's the M18 FUEL oscillating multi-tool. Runs on their M18 platform or their 18-volt platform. And if you get the kit, then you'll get this bag. You'll get the M12 M18 charger, and you will get the 5 amp hour M18 battery as well, all included in the kit. Again, if you're just getting the tool, then I don't believe you even get the bag. You'll just get the 2836 and maybe a couple of blades. But anyway, we get a wood blade with this, as well as a sanding pad, and looks like a couple of sanding discs or a couple pieces of sandpaper as well. Yeah, it looks like a wood blade, a standard wood blade. It's not a Japanese tooth, nor is it a carbide. So standard wood blade with it, and then looks like some 240 grit sandpaper, some 120, a couple pieces of 120, some 60 and some 80. So 60, 80, 120, and 240 sandpaper that goes on the hook and loop triangular shaped pad. So let's go over the features of this guy here. As I mentioned, it's the model number 2836-20. Obviously, if you're getting the bare tool and it's an 18-volt tool. Let's move this charger out of the way. We'll use the battery here in one moment. Flip this guy around, and you'll see right here we have a speed dial. So this does not work with a trigger or a paddle trigger. It actually has an on-off switch, and then from there you can basically adjust the speed based on what selector you have here on the speed dial. And there's really 11 speeds you've got, or 12 speeds I guess, because there is a speed in between each one. So you see 8, and then 9 is in the middle, and then 10, and then the middle, and then we have the A for automatic. And what the auto mode does is pretty cool. We'll actually show it. It'll set it at a low speed, and as you start engaging wood or whatever you're trying to cut, it'll start speeding up and ramping up based on the power that it thinks you need, and it works rather well. Sometimes it'll kind of automatically speed up sometimes, but for the most part it starts slow, and as you go in, it'll start ramping up, and you'll see that in action here in a few moments. Now, right off the bat, I wanted to point something out that, number one, this is kind of version 2 of Milwaukee's 18-volt oscillating tool. It's really version 1 of their M18 FUEL, or their brushless motored OMT or multi-tool. Between the version 1 and this one is a chasm, a night and day, whatever you'd want to call that. Just drastic changes on this new tool that makes it so much better in so many ways, from power, from usability, as well as even vibration. The vibration on this thing's probably the least amount of any of the tools I've used, other than maybe Fine. Maybe Fine has less vibration. Maybe I'd have to use them side by side, and the Fine is quite a bit more money. The headlight on this thing is amazing as well. So this is one tool that a lot of times you're using this in a darker space, and it comes in very handy to have that headlight right there on the front, shining bright right down where you're using this tool. And for the most part, installing blades is tool free. You're going to lift up this lever right here and push it all the way up, and then you have kind of a thumb screw right here. And what this is for is to kind of secure everything so it doesn't vibrate. So I've got a tool here, and as long as it's not a closed loop, so we have the open loop there, then I can put it in here. And one of the cool things is I can adjust that where I need it, and it will stay. There's actually magnets down there that hold that, so I don't have to hold it with 2 hands. And then I just tighten this thumb tight. I don't have to use a wrench or anything to tighten that, or a screwdriver. And then when I clamp this down, that's actually going to lock that into place, and now that's where I can't loosen that until I flip that lever again. So kind of a tool-free blade change, unless you have a closed loop like this here, and in that case then you do have to lift this up, and you have to unscrew this by hand, but you're really not needing to break out any tools, and you'll take this thumb screw all the way out, and then that's when you'll put this on for your sanding, and then run this screw back in. But for your open back, your typical blades, for the most part now for your blades, it's just literally back it off a few turns so you can get out from under it, and then put the new blade back in and position it where you need it. Let that magnet grab it, and then you're ready to go. Clamp it down, and now you're good to go. And as I mentioned, this is a brushless tool, so no brush motor. We get a lot faster cutting speed, as well as it's a lot smoother. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but in speed 12 or speed 11, so in high, it's going to go up to 20,000 OPM. It's not RPM because it's not circulating. It's actually OPM, so oscillations per minute. So it's up to 20,000. And the auto mode will take you there as well. Once you engage the material and it realizes you need 100% power, it'll ramp it up to that full 10,000 RPM or 20,000 OPM, 20,000 oscillations per minute. I've got a battery on here now, and if I turn this on, you'll see the movement in the blade there. And basically we get a 4.2 degree swing arc or oscillation angle area. So basically 4.2 degrees is how much movement you get there. As far as inches and how far, I'm not sure, because that's going to depend on how far you get out from that axis. Obviously closer in here is going to be a finer movement than further out away from that center point. So that 4.2 degrees is going to give you that angle it's going to swing regardless of how far out it is. Now in terms of vibration, many of these oscillating multi-tools, you pick them up and you really know that you're using one, because it's not that they beat you to death because there's not that much movement, but they just will really vibrate your hands because of the jobs that they're doing many times. But again, they've been able to tone down actually what's happening here in the tool versus what's happening here on the end. Now, obviously on the end, you see there's a lot of movement there. You can absolutely hear it, but right here, there's not much at all. So you still feel a vibration, but not near as bad as with other tools, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to go ahead and take this blade back off. And you'll see here, see that movement I have here? Now they're old tool, and other tools you'll see all this is hard mounted. So all of that impacting and cutting that's going on the 20,000, 15,000, whatever RPM or oscillations per minute you have it at, is just reverberating through that tool. Where in this case, it's kind of got a suspension in there, where it's cushioning that blow, so that flex is built into that tool. Now, others have claimed that makes it not easy to cut a straight line, but I haven't found that to be true. I think you do have to be aware of it, but I would much rather have that to where it's calming down that vibration, because in other tools, if you use it for too long, it will really start to bother you after a while. And then you'll see that headlight here. Just again, a great addition to a tool like this. Off the bat, talking about other brands, and really not to mention any specific, but you can really just see them. Many of them have bodies the size of a grinder. I have larger hands as it is, and this is not a small tool by any means, but it's still very easy to handle with one hand. There's some multi-tools out there where you feel like you have to grasp it with both hands like you're holding a polisher or a grinder, because the barrel here is just so big that that's the way you have to hold it, and that is just not comfortable in a tool like this, especially when you're trying to finesse and make pretty delicate cuts sometimes, or at least straight cuts. It's tougher to do when you've got a huge tool, and so that's one thing nice about this, and we'll measure that here in one moment. But as far as the length goes, and we'll measure it with the battery, because you've got to use it with the battery, you're looking at, with that angle on the battery, about 14.5 inches from the front of the tool to the back. Again, we're not going to measure the blade. That's going to depend on what size blade you're running. And then the height on that head is just under 4 inches with that blade on there. And again, you could probably run a straight blade and get by with a little lower profile, but that's probably pretty ordinary or pretty similar to most of your common blades out there. So about a 4-inch clearance when it comes from bottom to top. Now, as I was mentioning, when you kind of look down the body here, you see we're at 2.36 inches. So not a tiny tool by any means, and even 1.75 here on the back where the handle kind of is. But really, a tool like this, the handle's wherever you want to hold it for that particular job, because that will change from time to time. And you know, depending on whether you have it upside down, right side up, sideways, that's going to change all the time with a tool like this, as I'm sure you're aware if you've used one of these at all. So a little bit slimmer back here in the back, but even so up here, just a little over 2 inches. But if you'll look at top to bottom, I believe they've slimmed it down right there, yet 2.4 inches. Two more really quick things before we do. Let's get a weight on this. And we'll do it with the 5 amp hour battery. If it's gonna, I have to set it upside down. Here we go. So 4 pounds, 3.5 ounces. So not exactly heavy, but at the same time, it's not a little bitty tool at all. And that's with the 5 amp hour. You could put a slimmer pack on there and obviously save a little weight, but it just gives you an idea. You're at about a 4 pound, 4.25 pound tool. And then the last thing before we use this, these blades are not cheap. And multi-tool blades, I don't care what brand you're buying, to buy any quality blade is not cheap. So I would highly recommend, when you can, if you're going to be using a tool like this, then there are multi-tool kits or multi-blade kits that come that are actually usable. So make sure the blades that you're buying are usable. And that titanium tip blades are typically going to cut multi-material stuff like nails and things like that, and wood. And this kit here, for example, is a 9-piece kit, so it comes with the case. It comes with the case, it comes with wood blades, it comes with multi-use blades, it comes with a hardwood blade, which is like a Japanese style tooth where there's kind of teeth on 2 different sides. It's a really fast cutting blade. Even a hard metal blade, as I used here already. And this kit is like, I want to say it's like $60 for this 9-piece kit. But again, as you know, if you price these blades alone, a lot of times you're paying well over $10 for a single blade if you're buying good blades. If you're buying bad blades, they're not going to last very long. It's just going to burn right through them. So again, I would highly recommend that if you're looking for good blades, then buy a multi-blade kit. It's going to save you a little bit of money, and then you got a case to keep them in anyway. Something very typical of a Milwaukee oscillating multi-tool or any multi-tool is using it to plunge cut, because there's really no other tool that does a good job of plunge cutting and being able to do it with some finesse, with some kind of degree of detail. You can take a variety of saws and plunge cut, but typically the cut is wider than the actual area you need to cut out. But with the multi-tool, we should be able to address that. So I'm going to take my square and we'll make some marks here. Not the prettiest marks. I was using left-handed there, so sorry about that. But we'll get to where we're going. Here we go. So first I'm going to leave it in automatic. I'm not going to try to dial in the speed I want. I'm going to leave it in automatic. So first thing, straight right through this 2x6, whatever it is, 2x8, pressure treated 2x. So I can go straight through with not a problem. And then even starting from the edge, So you can hear that as I went into the wood, that it ramped it up as I got into it, and the harder I pushed, the more it would ramp up the power. Definitely didn't cut a straight cut there. Let's see if we can straighten that out. So very easy to cut on the lines where you need to be. And plenty of power for 2x stuff. And then many times when you're using a multi-tool, you're having to cut through construction nails and even trim nails. So this is Milwaukee's multi-material blade, and we can tell it's got the titanium tip on it. Should be a little better use for nails and such. And I'm going to slow that down to like 4. And there we go. So we just cut through 2 larger nails and 3 finished nails. No teeth missing on that blade just yet. When you're cutting through nails and definitely screws, you're going to go through blades. So it should last you a good bit, a decent quality blade. However, just plan on, if you are cutting a lot of construction fasteners, you're going to go through blades regardless of the blades you buy. And then something pretty typical, again, of one of these tools is, you know, something like a piece of baseboard. I understand this is not your typical baseboard. It'd be a lot softer material than this. This is actually a piece of some type of hardwood. I think it's either ash or oak, maybe a piece of oak, but regardless, it's a piece of hardwood. So you may encounter this in a chair rail or nice baseboards in a custom home that would have some hardwood stuff. But regardless, the point is you may be coming in to cut something out and you need a nice clean cut to butt something else against, or maybe even do some remediation work or something like that. So this is pretty typical in a tool like this. And again, you may have a multi-blade tool or multi-material blade in there because you don't know if you're going to encounter finished nails or not. So you can come in, make your cut, and move on and have a decent quality cut, which I can't say that my cut was that quality. But anyway, regardless, you can make a nice clean cut with the blade and move on and do the work that you need to do. Now I'm going to move to what they call their Pro Curve, which is made for hardwood, and it's got like a Japanese style blade on it where you can see there's flush teeth on the top side, flush teeth on the bottom side as well. And what that does is it really clears out the dust and particles, so it will cut. So used to have to take a multi-tool and really move it around to keep that blade cutting. With this one, as long as you put pressure on it, it's cutting. And obviously cutting against the grain is going to do a lot easier. Just like cutting with a chainsaw, if you're cutting with the grain, a little tougher cut than you're cutting against the grain or across the grain. Those last couple of cuts, I had it in this low speed, so let's go back up to automatic with this Pro Curve blade. And then even sanding. Very easy to sand with very little vibration. When it comes to power, we don't think we've used another multi-tool that's quite as powerful or even close to as powerful. And when it comes to vibration or the feel in the hand, the ergonomics, the same is there too. Maybe the fine model, but again, the fine's going to be probably twice as much money, which brings us to the point of the price. Now, price, bare tool is going to run you $229, and that's going to give you basically the tool, and that's it. Now, if you get the kit, as we have it here, with the 5 amp hour battery, the charger, and the 2836, you're looking at $329. So you're adding about $100 to get the 5 amp hour battery, the beautiful carry bag, by the way, you can't discount that, and the M12 M18 charger as well, and you get a blade and some sanding discs as well, so you can't count that out either. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to these blades, when you're buying quality blades, these things just are not cheap. Many times, again, as we said before, $10 and up for a blade, depending on what you're getting. So if you can buy a kit, a lot of times you're better off, as long as the blades that you're getting are ones that you're going to use. Make sure you're not buying just fluff in the kit. And this 9-piece kit, I believe it's $59 now, but we saw it last week at like $47. So you can keep an eye out and get these for a really good deal. We'll have a link in the description of these as well. And also, most of these blades in this kit are made in the USA blades as well, straight from Milwaukee. So check it out. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And hey, if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you put it in the comments on why? Have a great day. Keep smiling.